name is Pastor John, and I am about to tell you a story that will chill your bones and make you question everything you thought you knew about faith, trust, and power. I serve as the head pastor of Grace of God Ministry in a small village in Nigeria called Umuofia. My journey is one of deep conflict, moral descent, and eventual redemptions. But it didn't start that way. No, it started with a pure heart and a calling to serve. When I was a young boy, my parents were devout Christians. We attended church every Sunday without fail. I grew up with the teachings of the Bible, and by the time I was 16, I felt a strong calling to serve God. My parents were proud of me when I decided to join the seminary to become a pastor. They believed I was destined to be a great man of God, and I believed it too. After my ordination, I was assigned to Grace of God Ministry in Umuofia. The village was small and the church even smaller, but the faith of the people was immense. They came every Sunday, filling the tiny building with their prayers and songs. But despite their devotion, the church struggled financially. Offerings were meager, and maintaining the church was a constant battle. As the head pastor, it was my responsibility to keep the church afloat. The pressure was immense. I prayed fervently, asking God to provide for His people. But weeks turned into months, and our situation didn't improve. I began to feel the weight of desperation. The church was more than a building to these people. It was a sanctuary, a place of hope. It was during this time of struggle that I met Chief Okafor. He was a wealthy man in the village, known for his generosity, but also for his mysterious ways. One Sunday after service, he approached me with a proposal. He had heard about our financial troubles and offered to help. But his help came with conditions. "Pastor John," he said, his voice low and steady, "I have a way to help you to ensure the church never lacks again. But you must be willing to take a step of faith, a step into the unknown." I was intrigued but wary. "What do you mean, Chief? What kind of help are you offering?" He looked around to make sure no one was listening and leaned closer. "There are ways to harness spiritual powers that go beyond what you preach in church. Rituals that can help bring wealth and prosperity." My heart pounded. The idea of rituals was repulsive to my Christian upbringing, but the thought of the church closing its doors was even more terrifying. "I cannot compromise my faith, Chief. I am a man of God." Chief Okafor smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. Even the greatest men of God in the Bible had to make difficult choices. "Think about it, Pastor. Pray about it." For days, I couldn't shake Chief Okafor's words. I fasted and prayed, asking God for guidance. But instead of finding clarity, I felt more confused and desperate. The church's needs weighed heavily on my mind, and the congregation looked to me for solutions. They believed in me, and I couldn't bear to let them down. Finally, one night, I found myself standing at Chief Okafor's door. He welcomed me in, and we spoke long into the night. He explained the rituals, assuring me that they were simply another form of prayer, a deeper connection with the spiritual world. He promised that no harm would come to me or anyone, and that the church would thrive. With a heavy heart and a trembling hand, I agreed. That night marked the beginning of my descent into darkness. Chief Okafor introduced me to a spiritualist named Mama Ngozi. She was an elderly woman with a piercing eye that seems to see right through me. She performed the first ritual. Using a portion of the church's offering, she chanted incantations, and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. I felt a chill run down my spine as she assured me that the spirit had been appeased and that prosperity would soon follow. And indeed it did. The next Sunday, the church was fuller than ever. People from neighboring villages came to worship, and the offerings overflowed. It was as if a miracle had happened. The church financial problem vanished overnight. We renovated the building, bought new instruments, and started several community projects. The congregation was overjoyed, and they praised God for His provisions. Little did they know the true cost of this newfound prosperity. As time passed, the rituals became a regular part of my life. Each month, Mama Ngozi performed a new ritual, and each time the church wealth increased. But with every ritual, I felt a piece of my soul seeping away. I became increasingly paranoid, fearing that someone would discover my secret. I was no longer the devout pastor I once was. I was a man haunted by guilt and fear. My sermon became hollow, and my prayers felt empty. The congregation noticed the change in me, but they attributed it to the burden of leadership. They had no idea of the darkness I had embraced to keep the church alive. One day, Mama Ngozi demanded a more significant sacrifice. She insisted that the spirit required a human life to continue blessing the church. My heart sank. I had crossed many lines, but this was one I could not bear to cross. I argued with her, but she was adamant. The spirit had given much, and now they demanded their dues. Desperation clouded my judgment. I couldn't let the church fall back into poverty, but I also couldn't bring myself to take an innocent life. I prayed for a way out, but no answer came. The deadline loomed, and I felt trapped in a web of my own making. One night, as I wrestled with my conscience, a thought occurred to me. Perhaps I could find someone who was already close to death, someone who would not be missed. It was a twisted justification, but in my desperation, it seemed like the only way. I found an old beggar on the outskirts of the village, a man with no family, no friend, no hope. I brought him to Mama Ngozi and she performed the ritual. The man's life was taken and the spirits were appeased. The church continued to prosper, but the cost was too high. I had become a murderer, a man of God who had strayed so far from his path that redemption seems impossible. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I could barely sleep, haunted by nightmares of the beggar's face, his pleading eyes. I tried to carry on as if nothing had happened, but the guilt was overwhelming. I became withdrawn, avoiding my congregation, my family, and even God. One Sunday, as I stood before the congregation, I felt a wave of nausea. I stumbled through my sermon, my mind racing with thoughts of confession and redemption. As I looked out at the faces of the people who trusted me, I realized I couldn't continue living this lie. The weight of my sins was too heavy to bear alone. That night, I knelt in my office, tears streaming down my face. I cried out to God, begging for forgiveness, for a way to make things right. For the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. I knew what I had to do. The following Sunday, I stood before the congregation, my heart pounding. I took a deep breath and began to speak. My brothers and sisters, I have sinned. I have betrayed your trust and the trust of God. The prosperity we have enjoyed was not a blessing from God, but as a result of dark rituals and sacrifices. I am deeply sorry. Gasps and murmurs filled the church. People looked at me with a mix of shock, anger, and sadness. I expected them to turn their backs on me, but instead they gathered around me, praying for me, forgiving me. It was a moment of true grace and redemption. With the support of my congregation, I began the long journey of repentance and healing. We stopped the rituals, and the church's prosperity waned, but our faith grew stronger. We rebuilt our community on the foundation of truth, love, and genuine faith in God. Chief Okafor and Mama Ngozi were arrested and brought to justice. The village learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of straying from the path of righteousness for the sake of material wealth. As for me, I continue to serve as a pastor of Grace of God Ministry, but with a renewed sense of purpose and humility. I had learned that true prosperity comes not from the material wealth, but from living a life of integrity and faith. The story of my journey is a cautionary tale about the dangers of compromising one's principle for the sake of convenience or material gain. It teaches us that the true faith requires unwavering commitment to the path of righteousness, even in the face of adversity. The choices we make in times of desperation can define us, but redemption is always possible through genuine repentance and a return to the light. In the end, I learned that the greatest gift we can offer to God and our community is our unwavering faith, our honesty, and our love. May this story serve as a reminder to all who hear it that no matter how far we may stray, the path to redemption is always open to those who seek it with a sincere heart. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and press the notification bell for more captivating, creepy stories. See you in the next story. Bye for now.